Hey, everybody watching. Apparently, I'm still using this channel for shit. Although, I seriously doubt it will be lasting that much longer considering pretty much every video breaks community guidelines in some way. Today I want to talk about a hypothetical scenario in where I, centrist cracker opinionated, am somehow elected president of the United States. Now, unlike my name says, in here, it's more of a joke that I'm centrist and a cracker, considering that I'm a radical atheist. And I don't know, I mean, centrism itself is a bit of a joke these days. But let's just say that for some reason I win a trifecta. Now, in every logical scenario, I would either have to run as a, I can't because I'm not not American, but in every scenario, I would have to be a member of one of the parties, and I am not gonna do that because I don't feel like specifying, because some like actual Republican rhetoric, like to some extent, is reasonable. They just don't practice it, and a lot of Democratic rhetoric is unreasonable, and then what they push. So let's just say that for some reason, an independent gets the presidency and gets the trifecta in both houses of representation. Now, what would I want to do? First of all, I would make sure, and this is actually a regulation that, is just there to, discriminate against poor people for no reason, but try and make a program to clean all the paint that uses lead in it, because every dollar invested, the U.S. government will actually get in return later. So I would be for such an investment. Let's see, what would I also do? I would make Washington D.C. the 51st state, Puerto Rico the 52nd. The other islands, I believe it's only the Virgin Islands, either part of the Puerto Rican state or another state. And I would make all the Caribbean islands together another state, to make sure that every person in the United States has political representation. But I would get rid of the Electoral College, considering that I believe that people have the right to say in a country, what they feel and should happen, and not some weird compromise from the founding fathers who didn't believe in democracy. At least, a lot of them didn't. So I would do that. Let's see, what would I do more? Getting rid of the Electoral College, I would make sure that every person that is employed must live or must get a livable wage. I believe that no person that works full time should have two jobs. No matter whether you work in McDonald's or whether you work at Wall Street, I'm not saying that everybody should earn the same amount of money. I'm saying that people that have a full-time job should be able to live in there. I would invest in cheap housing for everybody, and I would try to, invest in better housing for mostly impoverished black communities, and actually speak with those people what they want to happen, instead of white people from the right party somehow saying what should happen. I believe that the conversation should be held with those people and not about those people without them represented. Now, I'm not a social justice warrior that believes that every person from every community should be represented in every, off-topic case or whatever. No, I'm saying that about this specific issue, I believe that people from those problem places or whatever should have to say. So I would do that. I would invest in nuclear energy and try to get more environmental regulation passed and carbon taxes, but I wouldn't necessarily enter the Paris Climate Accord, since I believe that the insane climate change fanatics are part of a religion, and I don't like religion, and I don't believe the world will end. But there will bad things will happen if we don't combat climate change. So let's see, I would do that. I would, and this is probably my most batshit insane proposal, is I would be for an invasion in Cuba and try to install democracy and create a plan for a better future for Cuba, and would try to give do that healthcare shit. I'm for the Cuban healthcare plan. I mean, look at how little shit they have, and they're able to take care of the sickest and vulnerable people. Maybe we should learn something from that. Then again, I wouldn't want to live in a country with no political freedom. So I prefer to be starving and have the right to say that I'm starving, or being well off and then somehow not being allowed to say whatever the fuck I want. So yeah, I would do that. I would give people on the internet more rights. I would get rid of the CIA. At this point in the conversation, it's pretty sure that if I was president, I would get assassinated. But yeah, I would get rid of the CIA, considering they're a terrorist organization, and the U.S. should be an actual beacon of freedom. I would, make sure that every state in the U.S. has equal rights for women and men. I believe right now that's not the case in every state. That's disgusting. I believe. Let's see. What should I do more? Yeah. So gerrymandering. How could you make sure that the people elect the people in office and not the other way around? I don't know if I believe that it should be. I believe that representatives should be, just a list. I don't really care the number of people, except, not 1,000 per state, but I believe that it should just be an open list. I don't believe in regionalism because it already has the state in it. So, I don't believe that it should per se even matter. And then people should be able to, vote for an open list and have several Republican and Democratic candidates. Yeah, I also believe that, there are many oppressed red states as well. For example, the state of, what was it called? Jefferson? I don't know, I'm not sure, but like Washington, oh no, not Oregon and Northern California, and then Eastern California. I believe those places, I mean, look, man, if you want a state, then you can have it, but we need to get rid of some states. I believe that Delaware, it's too small, shouldn't be a state. North and South Dakota, I mean, we don't need two Dakotas, man. I mean, we don't. I mean, it's all great that you people, like, actually you really are focused on differences between those small states, but it's irrelevant. I'm sorry, I'm gonna pull the rice gum card, but yeah, okay. So I would finish that off. Let's see, what would I do more? I would who would my running mate be? That's an interesting hypothetical. Who would I want to run with? The best. I would I would need someone who's actually capable of writing legislation, and get it passed. So, but I think I would pick AOC as my running mate. Fuck it, let's say it for the memes. I know that I'm just laughing, and maybe two people will watch this video. One will send maybe two, and the other one will just stumble upon it. But yeah, I would pick AOC. I mean, she works in Congress, and I like the fact that she sends up to greedy corporations. And I am pretty left-leaning regards to economics, meaning that I don't believe that I believe that the wealth inequality itself is an actual security threat, because it undermines the willingness for people to cooperate in peaceful manners when this can be allowed. Trickle down economics destabilizes the entire country. I would make many trans rights human rights. I don't necessarily believe that you should go to jail for calling a trans woman a man, but you are definitely a giant cocksucker if you do so. But yeah, I would make sure that there are there are bathroom bills. I would make abortion legal. Would make gay marriage legal. I would try in general to make sure that people will still have more freedom, economic freedoms. And I like many proposals of Andrew Yang. Making sure that people that make sure that people take care of an autistic child. That's an actual job. That's not something that you can just gloss over and say, oh, but that doesn't. No, no, no. Yeah, it definitely does. It is a full job. I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of people will do it lovingly, and whether or not they're doing a good job, that's in the gray area. But I believe that's a job that people should actually get paid for, by the government, and that the vast majority of wealth should come from the rich people. That we should invest in that. I would invest in infrastructure, make sure that there is public transport, more public transport, and it's more accessible. I would ban gated communities. There are many beneficial parts of gated communities, but I believe it's inherently bad because it is bad for the social, not social mobility, but like the people shouldn't be able to just wall off any community, and it's I don't know. I don't like the idea. Um, let's see. What would I do more? Make sure that many of the proposals that I would want go democratically. I believe that when people have the right to say in their country directly on bills, the country is generally a nicer place to live in. There are many problems in ultra democratic countries like Switzerland. I believe it's idealized too much, like same with Norway. But there are many beneficial parts of being super democratic, and I believe that we should be super democratic in the literal sense that people should vote on what they want in the country to happen. Um, I also believe in a strong border in the south with Mexico. I wouldn't per se say that we need to build a wall, yeah, America. No, we don't. But if you want to protect the people living in the US that are workers, then, the poor workers, they need, fair, pardon me, they need fair, pardon me, competition, and that's undermined by an open border. I'm not saying that the US currently has an open border. I'm just saying that I don't believe in one. You could, there are. I believe the US does have a reason to actually, help South America. But I believe that we should have actual, people, soldiers on the ground there, not in the let's establish some stability and democratic sense, and not in the CIA. This person is more left leaning than fucking Ronald Reagan. Let's shoot him in the face. That I don't like that idea. So I would also make sure that racial equality is. I was thinking about this. Do I believe that companies should have the freedom to discriminate on the race? Because I don't know that there is a certain amount of oppression, but I believe that overall people shouldn't have the right to pick a restaurant just to avoid black people. I believe that's disgusting. Yeah, let's see, what would I do more? I'm gonna be called a globalist. I really like NATO, and if I was an American, I would try to, the US has in certain aspects a foot on the ground in NATO, and I believe I would, make sure that that US is just a partner in NATO, and of course, the best, they're the most impactful nation, but not the nation that, gets the right to say about everything in there. I would try to make an Asian NATO. I believe that we should try our best to work with India and try to make sure that the companies who left for China either come back to the US or help them to move to India, because China is the biggest threat to global security, even for countries like Russia. So yeah, I would try to get an Asian NATO with South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and India, and also other countries that are willing to join. They would have to be democratic to some extent, and I believe that India still has some ways to go, but in general is a great example that a giant nation can still represent a democracy in many ways. And I would like to see, I would like the US still to be in some aspects, in the, in some actual cases, a democratic, enforcer of, police. But I hate the CIA and how they've done that. I would stop regime change wars unless those people actively want us to be there, like in Kurdistan. And I believe that Turkey is a terrorist nation and should be kicked out of NATO. And if they want to partner up with Russia, that's fine. But I believe that the US should try to work with Russia because, and I don't say this with a you know, racially motivated way. As you can see, I'm for many. I'm for equal race reality. Also, churches need to be taxed. Just putting that out there. And atheism should be something the government should try and enforce more. I'm an active atheist and believe that religion is a net negative, but we can talk about it later in another video. So what was it talking about again? Oh yeah, with Russia, we should try to work together with Russia and India to undermine Islamic ideology. And I believe that it's Islamic. It's just not, oh, they're not reading the Quran correctly. No, it's definitely fucking Islamic, okay? I don't like saying that. I would prefer for those billion people, you know, not to, you know, I think essentially every religion is very violent. Just how it expresses is different. Then again, just go back to most of the geopolitical standpoints. I would like an alliance with Europe, Russia, India to try and undermine Islamic fundamentalism with ideas, not with bullets, and a Cold War. Try to undermine it economically as well. I believe that that counts for every nation, including Albania and Bosnia, which are pretty Western nations compared to the other ones. I believe it does. It counts for every single nation that believes in those ideas. But I'm going to talk about religion another time. Don't worry. So, I'm going to try on top of my head to see what I would do more. I would try to use the US and put our foot down to make sure that the EU is more democratic. I wouldn't necessarily want to undermine it from a US standpoint, because I believe that the US needs, you know, it's handy for the US to have a central European partner, but they you know, we have to promote democracy. You know, George Bush was an undemocratically elected president, but in many ways I like what he did by promoting democracy sometimes, and mostly due to rhetoric, not due to bullets, because, you know, let's just be fair. You know, let's be honest, the war in Iraq was a massive Iraq was a massive failure. So yeah, I would try. And also, if a nation tries to do steps, you know, that we need to help them. If a nation really wants to be democratic, then the US has a fundamental, how do I put this, a fundamental responsibility to help them out. The US definitely has to be the freedom of democracy. They just don't necessarily have to be the, you know, superpower. I don't mind, you know, India is getting a real strong nation. Brazil is getting a real strong nation, but you know, Brazil is doing, you know, having a fascist president, which I don't like, but I don't per se believe that the US should be number one. I believe that the US should help nations be better versions of themselves, and therefore the US itself has to be better, but it's a different subject. Jesus, I talk too much. I believe that due to, you know, foreign policy, internal affairs, economics, I've put a pretty decent, you know, what I would want. I could make another video of talking about why other people are wrong when they oppose me on these issues. But yeah, I believe this is what I would want to do as a US president. Yeah, I would also give up that tiny... I would give up Guantanamo Bay, close it down. The US should not torture. And I would give up the island that we have with, or the US has with Canada, because, you know, they have like a disputed island, and, you know, the US doesn't need more islands. You know, Canada can have it. I believe that buying Greenland would be a good idea, but, you know, Greenland doesn't want to be bought, and that's completely fine. You know, that's completely fine. And I believe, you know, I, as a Dutch person, believe that the Dutch Caribbean should be sold off to the US if possible. And if I was president, I would gladly do that, because, you know, the Netherlands, it's too much. That's another subject for another time. Yeah, I believe I'm gonna wrap this video up. If you believe that I said something wrong and was incredibly racist or whatever, you know, feel free to comment down and tell me that I'm wrong. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to unsubscribe. Feel free to dislike. Feel free to like. You know, feel free. You know, feel yourself free to say whatever you want. But this is what a centrist cracker opinionated presidency. For the record, you know, calling me, you know, I don't know if this channel will ever be used by more than one person. I highly doubt that, but I wouldn't personally be opposed to that. But yeah, I believe that, you know, just call me Augustus. So President Augustus would do this. We can talk about the history of the US at some other points, but this is what I would want to do as, a power fanatic Hillary Clinton type of person that is only obsessed with being president, because I don't necessarily believe that the president of the United States can do the most good in the US. Because I believe that power shouldn't be centralized, but it's kind of contradictory considering that I have proposed a lot of legislation that would undermine states' rights. But complicated issues, man. But yeah, that is all that I have to say about this subject for now. Bye. Oh, let's see. The video is still not done because I had some other ideas that I just want to put out. I believe that the military-industrial complex is the biggest, one of the biggest threats to the U.S. internally, and that we shouldn't spend as much money on the military because, many people really like kicking ass in places, and I believe it shouldn't be something the U.S. does. I believe that it should mostly be just cut away, invested in education, and the most, poverty is, trying to establish a higher wage, and we should also invest the fuck out of NATO or NASA. Sorry, not NATO. No, NATO as well. So yeah, I would be foreclosing many military bases and whatever. Yeah. Bye. That's it. That's the final thought that I had. Sorry.